So there's this idea that suffering is something that we should avoid. But I'm here to tell you guys that that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, I am everything I am today because of suffering. And I'm sure some of you guys have read the title. But I want to tell you guys 3 stories, not for sympathy, but to show you guys how suffering and how obstacles have literally made me who I am today and are the reason and is the reason why I am where I am today. I really mean it by saying everything and everyone who I lost helped me to become someone stronger, someone more disciplined, and someone more intentional in my life. Stay tuned and make sure that you watch to the end of the video as each story gets better and they all are interconnected. The first story dates back to 2020. I was 15 years old. I was a freshman in high school, and I remember coming to high school not with a disciplined mindset, as most people don't, but little did I know I would have to change that in the days coming soon. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be playing basketball and football for the rest of high school. In fact, I was actually more locked in on basketball than I was football. And then life hit me, as life always will and life always does. As a man, you're going to get hit with obstacles. You're going to get punched. And it's not about if you fall or not, because you will fall. It's about if you're going to get up again. My dad eventually got sick with COVID-19. And it was before we pretty much knew anything about COVID-19. So what that was to mean was he was isolated from his family and pretty much put in a room to be worked on. But we really didn't have contact or knew anything that was going on with him. And eventually, I lost my pops. But before I lost my pops, I was granted about 5 minutes to talk to him. He was unconscious. And in talking to him, I was able to tell him how I felt. I was able to tell him what was on my mind. And I was able to tell him any promises that I needed. I could just remember going into the room, and I could remember it being this small 5x5 room that almost like a prison. And I could just remember telling my dad, I promise you I'm going to get a D1 football scholarship. And I promise you that no matter what happens in life, I'm never going to quit. And I will be successful no matter what. I was his only son, and I told him that I would carry your last name the way you would want me to. So in that moment, I was able to make a promise at the core of my existence, a promise that I meant at the core of my existence. That was the start of football transforming from something that was just me playing it and me enjoying it as a kid and me saying, hey, I'm going to play football. Hopefully I can get a D1 scholarship, to football being survival, to every day me waking up and working out. It was now a survival mechanism. I needed it. I needed something to chase. I needed something to get me off the mind that, man, I just lost my pops. And I'm just honestly sitting in this room all day, just sitting in it. I could never sit in my own shit. I had to go work. I began working every day. I'll put some videos up on the screen of me just days after losing my father, of me just working. I had no true direction. I had no true understanding of where I was going, and I didn't know exactly where I would end up. But all I knew was I had a reason, I had a purpose, and I had made a promise. And that was enough to make me get up every day and give it all I had. So if you're someone out there going through anything like this, I hope you understand that all you need is purpose and a little work ethic, and things will see their way through. football stopped being a game to me and it started being a responsibility. At the age of 15, I understood that I made a promise to someone who I would rather die than not keep the promise. So now every day I woke up, I had this voice on my shoulder saying, are you going to be a phony? Or are you going to go and give it all you got? Because you know he's watching you. This is when I realized that no matter what happens to me in life, I have two options of what I can do. I can either let it hold me down, which I'll get nothing out of it, or I can let it fuel me and I can use this suffering as bread. As the Bible tells us, suffering is bread to propel me into my next victory in life. We all have a choice. And at 15 years old, I learned this. And in learning in this, I knew that I just lost my dad. Whatever else in life is out there for me that's going to try to hurt me or just going to try to take me off my course, I've already went through something very trauma-filled, something very life-changing, something very, very, very traumatic. And if I can take this and turn this into something positive, I can do the same thing with every L I take in life. This leads me to my next point, the injury. So after losing my dad, I was not educated on how to properly train. I was not educated on how to properly supplement the body. And I dang sure wasn't educated on how to properly gain muscle, how to properly train without hurting yourself. I just had a bunch of emotion. I had a bunch of will, and I was always willing to work out. And I pretty much was the guy who would come in the gym. Like, I just remember being 15. I could just remember coming in the gym, throwing 315 on the back squat, not warming up at all, and just going. Like, I don't care, pain, whatever. Like, I'm just going to do it. That worked from a standpoint of getting to be a better football player, right? Because I never ducked any smoke. But in terms of my body, it slowly started breaking down my body. To make a long story short, I needed hip surgery at the end of my sophomore year, but I knew how important my junior year would have been if I had any opportunity at going D1. I made the decision that I was going to play my full junior year on a torn hip. This was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. It was painful. I mean, halftime of every game, I was stretching, like couldn't walk, taking pain medicine at the halftime of every game. But through this suffering, I was able to play a full year, nods, I guess. I was able to get all state attention, and I was able to get Division I interest from multiple colleges, major colleges at that. But this leads me to a point in my life that was honestly one of the lowest moments I've ever been in, aside from my pops passing. I get all state nods. I'm having interest from big colleges telling me, hey, come visit and come work out. Come to camp. Come get you an official visit or unofficial visit. Come over here. But I had to have the surgery. So I'm on bed rest. Like, just a quick, I can remember Mississippi State hitting me up on bed rest. And it's like, yeah, come to our camp and we'll get you, same day of the camp, we'll get you in, a little visit to go around. But I couldn't count. I couldn't run. I couldn't walk. I had just had hip surgery. Even though I put together a year like that on tape where over 130 tackles, I proved my talent. I felt like I couldn't reap the benefits of my labor, right? And this was a different type of suffering. I mean, if you've ever been an athlete and you've ever been injured, you understand how serious that can be just by itself. Now, take a next step to that where you're trying to get recruited and you have the tape. Coaches are calling you, coach, I just had hip surgery, right? And this was something big for me in my recruitment. A lot of coaches wanted to know, did I have good hips? period, right? And I'm telling them, man, I'm having hip surgery. All of this comes together and it all works perfectly because you will never understand wanting to do better, wanting to train, wanting to go as hard as you can at your craft, at your what you feel is your purpose, until you have a mind that is willing and able, but you have a body that is not able. And this is what I went through. In this moment, there's two things that got me out of it. And I promise you there's two things. And it's the Lord. Lord knows that this is the day I'll never forget. I remember this day like it was yesterday. I'm in the bed. I got my hip elevated, and I got this big ice thing on my hip. And I'm just scrolling on Twitter, and I'm seeing all the guys that I've played against, all the guys' ass that I've busted. I'm seeing everybody, and they're getting offers. They're going to camps. They're getting offers. They're going to show their talent. They're taking visits. And I'm sitting in bed after literally giving this season everything I have. I had a goal to get over 100 tackles and to be an all-state linebacker. And I did that. Once again, I felt like, man, I'm not reaping the benefits of my labor. And when you just sit there and you're scrolling and you're seeing this, it does something to your head. But in this moment, I knew that I had a purpose, and I knew that the purpose was deeper than just me and my own understanding. So I could just remember praying to the Lord. I can remember getting up on my crutches and crutching to my dad's room who had passed. And I got on the knee, and I just remember praying this prayer to the Lord. And I said, Lord, if this is for me, show me that this is for me. You've seen me work. You've seen me sacrifice. You've seen me, no matter how I was feeling, from the day my dad died, I've taken this serious. I've given it all I got. And I'm in this situation. Like, please just give me a little help. Start my recruitment process. Do something for me in this moment. And I promise you, I won't BS it. Like, I'm going to go hard. And I remember I prayed that prayer in my dad's room. And it's one of those things where I didn't need, like, I just was talking to the Lord. I just was praying to the Lord. I go to shower. I crutch to the shower. I take a shower. I come back. I can literally remember I'm about to play some Madden because I couldn't do anything else. So I'm about to play some Madden. I look at my phone. I get a text on Twitter. This coach says, send me your number. And about 30 minutes later, I received my first Division I offer. Prayer, looking at things, having faith, not having a limited mindset, and certainly just never giving up. No matter what, never giving up. If this route ain't it, hell, we'll turn back around and go another way. I was able to receive my first D1 offer. This moment propelled me into really, really, really sitting down with myself and saying, okay, this time around, if God grants me the chance that I can build my body back up, because I lost everything. I was in a room trying to lift resistance bands, but I lost everything. I lost muscle. Muscle turned to fat. I was looking plump. I said, God, this time around, if you give me this opportunity, I'm going to do it right. I had made a promise to the Lord, and he had delivered. So now I told myself, based on the suffering I had been through, based on me doing it my way, me just going hard, this had led me with a D1 opportunity, but this also led me with a torn hip and 8 months of recovery. So now with the fear of, will I ever be the same? Now having a D1 offer, not knowing if I'll be able to run the same, not knowing if I'll be the same athlete, this being on my heart pushed me so much further than I feel I ever would have got. I made it my business that I was gonna be at the gym 5 times a week, no matter what. If I wasn't at the gym 5 times a week, you got it. I'm dead or something. Like there's no issue. Like whatever happens, I'm going to be at the gym 5 times a week, and I'm gonna figure this gym. I'm gonna figure out how to train because this is a part of my purpose. This is what I seen. I seen forth in this, and I did not know what I was doing when I first started my fitness journey. I had no idea what I was doing. I just went in the gym. I just got on machines and I just worked. I researched the proper way to do things, and then I worked with what felt right to me. And before I knew it, 6 months, 8 months, I was able to play. And I was able to be a different player, a better player than I was before the injury. And I was able to transform my body in a way that I had never thought was possible for my body. None of this would have been possible if I didn't have that first hip surgery. I would have never seen that there was a reason for me to change how I was training. But in me getting hurt, in me having to sit down for that second, I was able to say, okay, let me actually learn how to properly train, how to properly progressively overload, how to properly supplement the body, how to properly hydrate the body, how to properly train my joint. I had the talent, I had the film, I had the will, but I just couldn't show up. That's when I decided to change how I was training, and that's when I finally decided to get better. But I don't get better if I don't have the suffering, which granted me the fuel and granted me the purpose to know where and how I am going to get better, where and how I am going to turn the purpose of my life to be a better player, a better person, and damn sure a better athlete. This discipline saved me when motivation couldn't. This leads us into my third part of the story. Now I've committed. I've been through 1 year of college, and honestly, everything was aligned at this time. I was coming into my sophomore year of D1 college football. I know the playbook now is not this learning curve. Now I just need to work on talent, field work, making sure I'm in shape, trainers. I went all out. I can honestly say at this point, I had never felt more aligned with my faith, my craft, and my purpose than I had ever been in my life at this point. I felt I was in the best shape of my life. I was in the best place mentally in my life. And I was in the best place spiritually in my life at this point. Listen to me when I tell you this. I go through the whole fall camp. And if any of you guys are football players, you know how important fall camp is. And you also know how strenuous fall camp is. I believe we had 3 weeks of camp. I go through all 3 weeks. 3 weeks of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. schedules. Just think about that. And I make it all the way to the last practice before we start to actually prepare for real games. I've had a good fall camp at this time. And going to just make a routine play, I ended up tearing my meniscus. To make a long story short, because it took me like 4 or 5 weeks to find out what was actually going on with me. When the doctor told me, yeah, you tore your meniscus, it's an actual tear, we get the x-rays back, it broke me. I want to let you guys know that I'll be the first to let people know, and I'll be the first to say it broke me. I never had felt so lied to, so cheated in my life. And I didn't feel cheated by anybody around me. I felt cheated by God. I can remember limping, leaving the facility that day and just going to my spot. I have a spot where I meditate. I take time to think, to make sure my actions are aligned where I want to go. And I can remember just going there, and I always pray at this spot. I had been coming to this spot all summer, all camp when I had time. This was my spot. It's where I sat down, I talked to the Lord, and I got guidance, whatever I needed. And I can remember saying, looking in the sky, crying, saying, why? I did everything I felt I was supposed to. I trained, I prioritized recovery, I prioritized rest, everything. I researched a bit, like everything, trainers, nutrition, supplementation, to get hurt in a freak accident. And it was at this point where I understood that I had another choice. I could let this ultimately take me out, And I could never recover from this. And this could be where the story of Jordan Okoye just ends. I tear my meniscus after I gave it all I got, and I just never was the same after that, mentally, physically, spiritually. Or I could take this and let this become something bigger for me. And I just remember in that same spot saying, Lord, why? Why? Bawling my eyes out. I had just got off the phone with my mom. And then I can remember saying, but you know what? I looked up and I said, I trust you though. I don't know why. You're going to have to show me why. But I do trust you because I have nothing else. And instead of spiraling and just being so caught up in the fact that this horrible thing has happened to me, this horrible thing that I have been working at for the last year, uncontrollably, my mind has been focused on the prize the whole time, right? This horrible thing happens and now all that's thrown out the window. Instead of just thinking about that every day, thinking about this snake has bitten me and I didn't deserve to be bitten by this snake. Instead, I focused on healing. Just paying attention to everything the Lord was showing me daily. Because when you're locked in as a football player, a lot of y'all can probably relate to this. If you're in sports, you usually have your whole identity based on that sport. And the Lord revealed to me that I'm much more than a football player. Though I may be a damn good football player, that is not my end-all be-all. And football most certainly is not my God. And at that time, the way I was moving, you probably would have been able to say that was, well, I was moving like it was my God, honestly. That injury at that moment is the reason why you guys see this video here today. The Lord led me into motivating. I'm more than just a fitness trainer. I coach mindsets. I coach dealing with these traumatic events and how to turn that into something positive. Because ultimately, that's all you have. It's the way you react after a traumatic event, an obstacle, adversity sets in. See, the Bible tells us to use suffering as bread. The Bible tells us that even the bad things are also blessings from God. So if the bad things are also blessings, you must ask yourself, how can that be? How can me losing my dad be a blessing? Until you see the chapter written after that. Understand that the chapter you're in today can be pain. It can be adversity. But tomorrow's chapter or next week's chapter or next month's chapter can be purpose. I want to let that sit for some of you guys. The Lord eventually showed me that I can inspire, I can motivate, and I can most importantly impact others through my own story and through the things that I have learned along the way of my trauma, my adversity, and all the scars that I've created on the way. The reason why I'm sharing with you guys these 3 stories is because they all link up into where I'm at now. And whatever trauma that I have along the way, along the journey, I'm going to start documenting everything. And I'm going to show you guys how I get past it. And we're going to ultimately see how it makes me a better person and how L's turn into W's. There wouldn't be no J.O. cut if it wasn't for me losing my dad, me dealing with injuries, and most importantly, suffering and adversity. I didn't lose everything all at once. I lost it in stages. And every time I lost something, I gained clarity and purpose, and most importantly, direction on where I need to go next. Suffering didn't block my path. It built it. So if you're going through something right now, maybe you're a former athlete, maybe you're a busy professional, or maybe you just lost a loved one, understand that this is temporary pain for tomorrow's purpose. Ask the Lord for direction and clarity and get to it. Because the longer you sit in your shit, the longer you'll sit in your shit. And if you need help building structure around your day and holding yourself accountable, follow the page right here at J.O. Cut, or you can even hit my main IG at ImUp.J. I have everything linked in the description. I thank you guys for your time. Let's get active.